Hi, this is Jeremy Kellett, Director of Recruiting here at Oakley Trucking, and I'm your host for this podcast. On today's podcast, I am joined by Lieutenant Doug Lafferty of the Arkansas Highway Police Department of Transportation, and we're going to talk to him a little bit about all the things that he does and what he looks for when dealing with truck drivers as they come across the scale. So I'm looking forward to and we got a lot of topics actually to cover with him. You know, what a typical day is like on his job, CSA violations, any advice he may have to truck drivers, even a couple of we may even hit some logging rules on the logbook, off-duty, sleeper berth, the new rule that just came out. So we're just going to have a laid-back conversation with Mr. Doug here in just a minute. But first, let's hear from Vickie Chastain on this week's Need to Know segment.
OmniTrack's ELD is an effective partner in helping Oakley use technology to comply with industry regulations. Aside from the ELD, the onboard recorder has become an increasingly popular accessory. Having a dash cam in your truck means supporting evidence at your fingertips. Should you be involved in an accident, they are placed to observe the whole road ahead. Therefore, any accident you are involved in is going to be recorded, which can help police or other law enforcement punish offenders by showing the authorities what really happened and who was or wasn't at fault. I'm Vickie Chastain, and that's this week's Need to Know segment.
Okay, Lieutenant Doug Lafferty, how are you today?
Oh, it's wonderful. Great to be here. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you coming all the way up from Hope to visit with us here on the Oakley Podcast.
I am excited.
Good.
This is going to be fun.
Hey, give our listeners, which you probably already know this, but most of our listeners are owner-operators, truck drivers in general, and their families. That's what this podcast is all about. Give our listeners an idea just who you are, where you're from, your family, a couple things before we dive into these questions and drilling you all on all these questions.
I can do that. Doug Lafferty, I'm a lieutenant with the Highway Police. I've been doing law enforcement for about 18 years, right up at 11 years with the Highway Police. I was born here in Arkansas, where I live now. Great place to call home. Big believer in family. I've got two daughters that test me to my limits and a little bit beyond if you've ever met my youngest.
How old are they?
One's 12 and one's 22.
Oh, yeah.
If you decide you want to have kids 10 years apart, rethink that. Get them closer. But they're wonderful girls. I come from truck drivers. My father drove not very long, just long enough for my mom to realize how much she hated it. And it took her a little while, but he got out of it. My grandfather, he was in Korea as a truck driver, and that's what he knew how to do when he came back. When he retired, he got bored and bought his own truck. It's family. Most anybody we run across, the reason they're out doing what they're doing is to take care of their families. Family's number one.
Right.
So that's always a big important thing.
So how long you been doing this? You said 18 years. How long you been with the
DOT? I've been with 11.
11 years.
Started in January of 2010. So coming up on it. Getting up there quick, aren't you? Later this month be the 11-year anniversary.
Assume you married?
I was.
Okay.
Fixed that problem.
Okay. Divorce,
sometimes
2 girls.
Yeah, divorce is a horrible thing, but sometimes it's the better of the two evils.
I understand. And you live in Hope?
I live in Hope.
Okay.
It's home.
Yeah. Nice place down there, like South Arkansas.
It's quiet. I had opportunities to move, but wasn't moving my kids. Yep. It's home.
What do you do on your time off?
Not a whole lot.
No.
By the time the day ends, I'm usually beat. I've got a 120-pound mongrel dog that he thinks he's a puppy. And if you've ever had a 120-pound dog launch himself across a room, be careful. When they land, it's a heck of an impact.
Right. So I got a few simple questions to get started. I know I probably flooded you with these questions I sent you in that email, but this just good stuff because we've never had sat down and talked to a DOT officer, and I think it's great for our listeners to do that, to be able to hear things that you got to say, and that will help us be a better company in the long run. So simple things, that I know, and I know all our listeners probably know, but me and my wife were talking last night, and I was like, he needs to tell me about the difference between a DOT officer and a state trooper. She said, yeah, dumb it down for me. I said, I'll do it, babe.
The main difference is responsibility. the state police and the highway police both have state jurisdiction anywhere inside Arkansas. The state police, they handle mostly traffic for non-commercial. They work the accidents on interstate. They do a lot of interdiction work. We can do some of that. We don't work accidents, and I've lost no sleep over that. I'm perfectly happy with that. But we're trained and equipped to do size and weight, which they're not. Also, we're trained for the commercial side. So while we have very similar authority, we kind of focus on the commercial side, and we kind of let them take care of the other stuff, and they let us take care of this. And they're also an independent agency. They report directly to the governor. We're under the Department of Transportation.
Okay.
So we report to the director of Department of Transportation, who reports to the governor. And part of what that does is if there's a work crew on the road that needs some lights for safety issues, they have a lot quicker access to get one of us than they would if it was another route. It helps with the safety for our Department of Transportation a lot.
I see. So that explains a lot right there. I didn't realize two different entities like that.
Yeah, a lot of states have them combined in one, and it works for them, but it works for us the way we have it, due to us being able to help with the safety for our Department of Transportation workers. I think we've all seen people driving down the road. You see some lights going and nobody moves over. We're able to get out there and kind of give some blue lights and help provide for their safety. One of our officers got hit a couple years back. It was a pretty bad accident. But if he hadn't have been where he would, it probably would have killed 2 or 3 of those workers.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's unfortunate. That'll happen. That's unfortunate to hear that. So y'all work together too, I guess, once in a while also.
Yeah.
And the training, I'm assuming the training's different because you're learning commercial side of it, and they're typically not learning the commercial side of it.
The state police have their own academy that they do. Most of our officers we send through the standard police academy for like municipal and county officers. And then we do our own school for the commercial aspect of it. You end up getting certified as a law enforcement officer either way, but we go different routes. Ours is very heavily focused on the commercial side because that's our main responsibility.
So this just got me thinking. You saying that it wasn't any of the questions. So how would somebody get started in that? They come up through being a cop at a sheriff's department or a city cop, and then they move on to that, or can they go straight into, hey, I want to be a DOT officer?
We hire both ways.
Okay.
What we really want are good, hardworking, ethical people. We can train them from there. If we can get good, hardworking, decent people, we can train them. We can teach them how to do the rest of it. Good. But ethics is one of the most important things that we look for. We want good people.
Yeah, that's in anything.
Yes.
That you people is what makes your company. That's for sure. So, good. I appreciate you answering that. We're talking to Lieutenant Doug Lafferty with the Arkansas Highway Police Department of Transportation. How should I say that? Department of Transportation? Or
Arkansas Highway Police or Highway Police or
DOT.
We'll work
That's
with that
what everybody. Anyway, got him in here in the Oakley office and the Oakley Podcast room, and we're visiting with him on some stuff that really going to answer some questions that I think is going to help our owner operators and help me too in the process. So, all right, let's. So, typical day. What's a typical day that you do? And I mean, you work Monday through Friday and a lot of hours, or give us an idea there.
For our officers, we work 24/7. There's always somebody working. I work at a station. I'm the supervisor at the station there at Hope. I've been very fortunate. God has blessed me, and I was able to get that. I usually get Monday through Friday. I get great hours, but there's somebody there all the time. We're 24/7. We're always working.
So that way station, somebody's there all the time?
All the time.
Okay.
We move heaven and earth, but we make sure it's open. And you never really know what you're going to get. You may be helping with a vehicle fire. You may end up closing the station, go help with a manhunt. and we've done that. Our officers have responded to a school shooting. You never know what you're going to get, but on a normal, no major problem day, we'll show up, catch up on email, make sure there's been no legislative changes. We want to make sure we do it right, so we're really looking close on that. And then we'll start weighing trucks and see what we can pull over, and hopefully find somebody that's a danger. That's keeping the road safe is the main goal. Obviously, doing random inspections, you get a lot of those that don't have problems, which are wonderful for your safety scores, and we're glad to do it. But we like finding ones that are going to cause problems and hurt people. We want to get those off the road.
Yeah, they make you feel like you've done something today if you've got that guy off the road because he's got major issues.
Now, the inspections without violations of those, I've had some officers kind of hang their head because they're not finding a whole lot, and I keep reminding them, those are important. The companies that are doing good, that are spending the money on safety, they need those inspections without violations to show what they're doing. And it helps their safety scores, which helps their insurance, their safety ratings, their loads that they get.
Yep, helps the driver too.
It helps the driver. So, I mean, if a good inspection is a good inspection, whether there's violations or not. But yeah, we're human, and we want to find somebody that's out there that's going to hurt somebody. I mean, that's our main goal, is finding somebody that's going to hurt somebody.
Now, you've been doing this 11 years at Hope. So one's rolling off the highway there, and you're eyeballing that thing, or he rolls up on the scales. You got the keen eye to go, hey, we better take a look at that guy. What maybe can you give our listeners a little insight of what you may look for that would provoke you to really inspect that guy or pull him around?
Well, obviously, if we see something, we're going to stop it. I mean, we're Americans. If there's something there, probable cause is so much better than random. It's just it's in our DNA as Americans. You don't want to mess with somebody if they're not doing something wrong. So if we see something, we'll pull them in, of course. As far as random, a lot of times it's, okay, I've been sitting here 30 minutes. I can't find anything. We'll take the fourth truck that comes by. Now there's a lot of, hey, that one there's something about that one that looks weird, and we'll get those.
Which I guess weight is a big focus. I mean,
Yes.
you're checking weights. That's what a weigh station is. Checking weight.
We check weight.
Yeah.
Yes, and we have a static scale there. We can weigh them pretty quick. Obviously, we can't weigh everybody. There's too much traffic. But the ones that we do weigh, we look at those pretty close for both axle and gross weight. And obviously, if those are, we'll pull them in.
So they've got, I'm assuming, you got the pre-pass, so the pre-pass lets a lot of them go through because there's no way you can, like you said, you can't back it up. And
there's no way to get.
There's no way. There's so many trucks on the highway, especially I-30.
We've had pre-pass go down on us before, and all the trucks coming in, we couldn't get them through quick enough. I mean, eventually we would send that people down there, just wave them through and just send them back around past us. There's just too much traffic.
Yeah. Yeah, so that pre-pass is handy then.
Very handy.
Do you catch every one that blows the scales? Can you catch them all?
No. No. Be honest, we can't. We're in a hiring phase right now, and we're going to get a few more people. So that'll help us with some of that, because we are getting a lot of people that are. When we have enough people, we do a decent job of it. It's just
there better
personnel.
not be an Oakley blow by the scales, that's for sure.
I can't remember one.
Good.
But I haven't done that in a while. I hope not.
Well, and I'm just thinking to help I know our drivers, they're probably sitting there, come on, Jeremy, we know all this stuff. But, I think it's good just to get an insight of what you look for when a truck comes across there, whether it, what triggers you guys to do it, to pull them in and check them out.
I had one truck. It was a Kentucky-based truck. It pulled up on the scale, and it just looked tired. The truck looked tired. It looked beat down. It looked wore out. And for whatever reason, I grabbed it for an inspection. Ended up finding 24 violations and like 8 out of service.
Wow.
It just looked tired.
So looks have
looks have a lot to do with it. Not necessarily dirty. I mean, it's road. It's dirty, but just it looked tired, and it's not really anything you can put your finger on. We had one officer that he would look at the tires. If the tires were fresh, he thought everything would be good. I kind of look at it just a little bit if I see smoke coming off of it where there shouldn't be, there's an issue. If you can tell the maintenance has been done, a lot of times you can look at things and tell.
Well, you know, these guys, typically owner-operators, they're proud. They're proud of their equipment. You know, the trucks, I know, and we're proud of our trailers. And that's something that I think they take pride in, to make sure it is cleaned up and done right and it looks good, doesn't look tired, like you said, and that keeps them out of some inspections.
I would guess that it does. A lot of times when I do random, I would just fill up the way lane and whichever one was on the end. And to me, that was the only way I could truly make it random. But there's a lot of truth to what you're saying. Appearance matters. And if you can tell somebody's putting time in to shine everything, they're going to make sure their steering's adjusted. They're going to make sure their brakes work. Y'all do a lot of owner-operators, right?
Yeah, that's all we do.
I've noticed you either have their trucks are either immaculate. I mean, I had a 20-year-old owner truck on an owner-operator. There were no problems. I mean, it was one of the most beautiful truck I've ever seen. Yeah. Truck was 20 years old, had I don't know how many miles, but he took care of it, immaculate. And I've had others that they just didn't do a whole lot to it. So, but you could look at this one guy and you could tell everything was perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, it was beautiful.
Those guys take care of their stuff. They ahead of the game. I mean, I think they know what it's anything that's wrong with that truck. They know about it.
Yeah, I think I ended up trying to recruit him, and I don't think he did. He didn't come over to us.
Well, that's a good. Well, you're always looking for somebody, like you said in the beginning, some good ethics people. And good responsibility.
We've got an officer now that he drove for a couple years, and very good officer. Yeah, we'll take whatever we can get as long as they're good and ethical.
That's good to know. That's good to know. So on, as you're looking, these guys are coming through the scale, and you're getting tipped off on some stuff, thinking, or it's random. You pull them in, Right. I'm assuming you'll get an occasional attitude problem in the very beginning, and that dictates a lot of times which way this is going to go.
Well, we already know if we're going to do an inspection or not.
Before you even talk to them?
Yes. Okay. We've already usually decided. About the only time that's going to change is if, hey, man, I got inspected like 10 minutes ago, and they hand you the inspection. Or we can look up, and if somebody's had 4 inspections within the last month, okay, let's find somebody else. You've had enough bad luck.
Right. Well, that's good to know y'all do that.
Yeah, well, if somebody's been inspected a bunch, let's find somebody else. You've had enough. We get the occasional bad attitude. We teach our officers that, take it for a little bit, because nobody really wants to talk to the DOT. I mean, let's face it, who would want to?
Right.
So, but after a certain point, respect is met with respect. We understand it's a rough job. Nobody wants to talk to the DOT. I mean, who would?
Right.
But in the end, we're not doing anything out of malice. And as long as people understand that, we're going to be okay.
Well, and I think we you've got I like what you said earlier, is the goal is to get the wrong people off the road,
right? The
unsafe drivers off the road,
right?
That's and you got to have companies have got to play a part in this. So a company like Oakley Trucking, well, we try very hard to hire good, safe drivers. And we are constantly trying to do the preventive maintenance on safety, watching videos, knowing all the rules. I mean, we really try our best to make sure these guys are safe drivers on the road, because having an accident is the worst thing.
Oh, God. I do the post-crash for that part of the state. And even when y'all do everything right, everybody's looking at you. And the more y'all do, the better it is overall. Most of the post-crash investigations I've done, these are basically we're doing inspections after the accident. Most of the ones I've done, the company did everything right. The driver may have messed up, but the company did everything right. And you can see that in the documentation. And, while we did no criminal charges, I'm hoping it helped them, because you could tell most of the company, everything. I mean, spot on, perfect. You ask them a question, they had it right there, and they were doing everything they could. They wanted to prevent that accident as much as they could before it happened, and sometimes they just happen.
I assume this. I don't know this, Doug, but to me, most of the accidents are caused by four-wheelers. And to me, I just drive 40 miles one way to work and back, and it's during, heavy traffic.
Yeah.
And my gosh,
mm-hmm.
You talking about the idiots that need to be pulled over and stopped. That's going to cause some problems.
And I always see them when I'm not working.
Yeah.
The last statistics I saw was like 70% of accidents between commercial trucks and non-commercial were caused by the non-commercial. But everybody, from the attorneys they hired on down, they want to get in somebody's pockets even if they're not at fault. And while I'm not going to express any opinions on it, if you're doing everything right, I don't see how it can help.
Yeah.
Let me reword that. If you're doing everything right, it's going to show in the end. When I come out and look at it later, it's going to show that you're doing everything right. Things happen. Most of the time, it's the small cars.
This isn't on the list either, but it made me think we have, for the last couple of years, we've had forward-facing cameras, dash cams, that has helped in a lot of situations with accidents to where we've had the other person saying, oh, no, he came over on me or whatever, and then we get the video to the officer and it says, oh, no, here we go. And it helps. It's helped a lot in a lot of situations like that. Do y'all see where videos
I love them.
Help? Oh, do you?
I absolutely love them. Like I said earlier, we don't do the actual accident. I just do the
post-accident.
I do the
report.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So we work a lot with the state police on that, and we've had 3 or 4 that I've been involved in that there's some questions on what happened right before, and the company was like, well, did you watch the video? Oh, excuse me? Yeah, did you watch the video? Can we get a copy of that? And the troopers just fell in love with it because they could see everything. Yeah. And typically a lot of what you're seeing on the roadside would either match perfectly with what you're seeing or it would throw it in a completely new light.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I do too. We do too. It seems to be working great. So it's solved a lot of problems.
I bet.
Yeah. So let me get I'm sitting there thinking, all right, you're down. You got the weigh station going on down there at Hope now, but y'all also do roadside stuff. You're so do you got guys patrolling all over the state, or
we do? I'm in District 4. We have that southern corner of the state, 15 counties. We've got 14, 15 officers that are out patrolling, depending on days off when they're there or on shift. So we've got a few out, not as many as we would like to really make a huge impact, but enough that they're there. Most of the time they're hitting the side roads. They're setting up portable weight pads to check for the weight on those roads.
Check for guys going around.
If you see somebody that's crossing the country and then all of a sudden they get off and they go 10 miles and it's that exact 10 miles that they're off interstate is where a weigh station would be. To me that would be kind of
suspicious.
It's not illegal, but I would want to know why you got off interstate and going a lot slower and a lot heavier traffic, and just gets my curiosity.
Sure. Sure it does.
And I think everybody understands that one.
What about some of the new rules that have come out, and we don't have to spend a lot of time on this, but I know they extended the 14 somewhat, and then you got that 7-3, 8-2 split that can happen. Has that been an issue for you guys?
That has been a training issue for us. It has gotten on the 7-3 instead of the 8-2. One of the main things that we're seeing is in the old rules that they used to have, the only thing that stopped the 14-hour clock was an 8-hour sleeper berth. Now it's anything used as a part of a split stops the 14, which, the truck driver side of me really likes, because I can see where that's super useful for y'all. Yeah. If somebody's tired, they take a 3-hour nap, hey, they can. The way they worded it, in the old rules, you had to have anything 10 and above could not be used as part of a split. Now you can. So you can use that 3 hours with your 10 that you take later. So it has gotten extremely confusing for us. A lot of training has been put in that, and there probably continue to be. Yeah. It's a confusing one, and I've seen 4 different people with 4 different opinions on the way things look.
Oh man!
So it's a challenge for us, but we're going to get through it.
Well, you would think eventually it'll work itself out to where everybody understands how you can and can't use it. I know that.
And we're constantly working on trying to make sure everybody's on the same page.
I had one question I wanted to ask you. What was the difference between off-duty and sleeper berth?
Off-duty is you are not responsible for the truck in any way, shape, form, or fashion. You are completely off-duty. You're not working. Sleeper berth, you're actually in the sleeper berth. As far as the hours of service, doesn't make a big difference, except if you're trying to do a split, because you have to have at least 7 hours in the sleeper berth. The other, you could be off watching a football game for all we care.
Right.
But 7 hours has to be sleeper berth if you're going to do a split sleeper berth. As far as function is with, a lot of the other things, that's the main difference, is if you're going to do a split. The technical terminology, there's more to it, but that's the main function change.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm thoroughly confused.
Yeah, it's a mess.
It is a sight, but I don't know. You guys, of course, truck drivers got to know all the rules too, and then you guys got to know all of them, and then you got to interpret them the same. That can be a challenge right there.
Well, we've got state law. It's just basic police officers. We've got the federal. We've got the hazmat. We've got size and weight, which most state officers don't deal with. It can be a challenge. We spend a lot of time sitting around talking with each other, trying to make sure we've got everything right. I teach the Part A and Part B for the federal side. So I get a lot of phone calls, and I'm not going to say we always get it right, but we try very hard.
Well, that's all you can ask.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all human beings.
Exactly. And there is it's called a data queue. It's basically an appeals process.
Yep.
If we're
very
wrong,
familiar with that.
If we're wrong, please send it in. I'd been working about 3 years, and there was something I kept putting on inspections, and it finally got data queued. And I was like, yeah, because of this, and this. And the guy that was checking it over said, that's not wrong.
So,
and I'm like, oh my God, you mean I've been doing? Yes. Oh my God. And I was just horrified, because I'd been putting it on inspections 2, 3, 4 years.
Oh man.
And I don't write, it was brake linings. They could have chips in the sides, but not cracks. I was putting them as violations. I was wrong. And I'd never written a ticket for it. Thank God for that. But, I mean, I was horrified.
So when they data queue that, does that come back to the officer that?
It goes to, you have an officer that's dedicated to working them here in our Little Rock office. But they will reach out to us and say, hey, do you have pictures? Do you have copies of stuff? What's going on? And that's what happened on this one, is he asked me, like, well, this, and this. Man, you're wrong on that one.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God. Because I don't mind doing the job. but I don't want to hit somebody on something that I shouldn't. And that one, I learned from it.
You remember that one, don't you?
Remember that one very well.
Well, and these violations, probably a lot of DOT officers don't know this, and you may, but we tie that CSA points that they get to their pay.
I did not know that. So
when they get violations, it cuts into their pay. It decreases their pay. So we encourage, and the majority of our owner-operators have what we call a zero score. They don't have any violations on their CSA. But some of them, when they do get violations, we have a little stair step, where you're getting paid 25 cents a mile, loaded and empty, which doesn't sound a lot, but it's a lot.
That's good pay.
And when you get violations, you get stopped and you get violations, then it adds up to so many points because it's for 3 years.
Yeah.
And you total that over 3 years, it can add up to a lot of money to these guys.
It can.
So, but that's our plan. We want to emphasize safety to our owner operators and make sure they understand this and to be more prepared every time and all the time so they don't get any violations. But what I was getting to say is even warnings are points. Even if they get a warning, you don't write them a ticket, they still are associated or given points now. And that's the frustrating part. Now, we can still data queue it if it's wrong, but if it's right, he got it. Whether it's a warning or none. What we've run into is we've run into guys getting a speeding ticket. Mm-hmm. Well, they get a warning. No. They get the ticket. No, let me take it back. They get a speeding warning, and they'll come in and they'll tell us, man, I got pulled over, got a warning. And we're like, crap, wished you'd have got a ticket.
It's easier for y'all to challenge them in court.
Ticket we can challenge and get the guy, to where he can get it off of it or do something to get it knocked down or something with a warning.
Yeah.
It ain't nothing you can do about that. So I didn't know if your officers knew anything like that.
It's not something we teach them. We teach them to do what you're going to do.
Yeah. You got to.
Yeah. We don't push tickets at where I work. If somebody needs one, they need one. If they don't, they don't. I don't care if I ever write another ticket again in my life. I'll be honest about it. I don't get anything from them. I don't see anyway.
Yeah.
But I knew there were a lot of drivers that preferred tickets because they were easier to get off record. The way we're trained is it's the violation that puts the point. Whether or not you do the ticket or the warning is immaterial for the CSA. What they don't train is let's say it's a speeding ticket where you go to court and they change it to something else. Instead of being 2 or 3 points, it's 1 point. So I understand that's a lot easier on y'all.
Yeah. Well, the CSA that changed a lot of things.
It did.
When that came into play back in 2010, 2011, something like that. And it really did. It changed the way.
It changed a lot.
It changed a lot. And then, of course, all the going from logbooks to Qualcomms.
And ELDs.
And ELD. And how do y'all, well, I guess they can only have a certain type now.
Yeah, it's ELDs only now.
Yeah, ELDs only. So it's not too bad to be able to check. And
they did extend, that change they did in September where they changed the 14 and the 30-minute. They took the short haul exemption out to 150. And if you're centered in Little Rock, that's most, if not all, of the state.
Pretty close.
So I think that hopefully helped a lot of people on that respect.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Hopefully.
Good stuff. Man, that is, I appreciate you being honest with all this stuff. It's good. We're talking to Lieutenant Doug Lafferty of the Arkansas Highway Patrol and the DOT down in Hope, Arkansas. He runs that scale down there. So we know you see a lot of Oakleys going down I-30.
We do. Never had any major issues with them. They're usually pretty good.
You got a good reputation?
At my station, yes. I've never had any real issues with them.
Good. We got some great owner-operators. Top of the line, just sharp guys, take care of their stuff. I mean, we try really hard to do that too. So if you run across one that's not doing things right, we got to know.
It's the only way to keep your business safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
One bad apple can ruin the whole batch.
What's some of the advice you'd give these truck drivers out there today on how to be a safer driver? I know before you tell me what you were catching a lot of things now.
Yeah. One of the things I would say is just be patient. A lot of these four-wheelers, they are the problems. We were talking about the statistics earlier. I understand they're the problems. Just be patient with them. God bless their souls. They just don't understand what they're doing when they're trying to give you a hard time. But pay attention. We're seeing a lot more of people coming through watching stuff on their phones. YouTube, I had one guy watching the movie Rio 2, the little blue bird that was dancing around. And I mean, we were talking about the movie. And, I was impersonating the bird dancing and all this because we've got video, and I figured that would really help the bird, help on the court case. And we were talking about it, and I mentioned the bird like 5 or 6 times, and I was dancing. But when it came time to start talking about, you're not supposed to be watching that, I wasn't watching it. Dude, we sat here and watched impersonated the bird dancing for like 6 times. I don't know what you're talking about. I had another one that was on a phone call with a young lady that was not wearing much, and when I mentioned that he shouldn't be doing that, he's like, well, I had to call my mom. Stay off your phones, guys. Distractions they're going to hurt. A lot of officers I've seen nationwide reports of such. People are getting run over just because people are in their phones. And to share the wealth, the four-wheelers are doing it too. I know they are. I'm trying to catch them also. I don't deny that they're doing it, but the more you're on the watch, the better it'll make it for everybody.
Well, and I think a truck driver can get complacent.
It's easy
because
to do.
I'm driving, from here to Dallas, not a getting that right lane and just cruise, and then I think I got it going easy, and I start getting distracted real quick. Whether it's looking down at a text or looking at something online, a video, or
I'll be honest, on my drive up here today in my state marked unit, I had to stop 2 or 3 times to get out and walk around because getting complacent, nice, easy drive, had the heat going just perfect. Eyelids were getting heavy. If you need to stop for 5 or 10 minutes, do it. Another thing we're seeing is following too close. We had, it was not Oakley. We know which one it is. We spoke to the driver later.
Thank goodness.
One of our officers was going home on a motorcycle, and literally, if he'd have just leaned back in his motorcycle, he could have touched the front bumper on a chip truck behind him. And I understand sometimes these guys get, and it's, you get paid by the mile, not by the time. So you want to make as good a time as you can. But it's not worth it. And again, every time I'm not working, I see it really bad. I know the four-wheelers are getting right up on you, but let's have some patience. They're idiots. We know this. Let's just move slow.
Yeah, you got to be the smarter driver out of the deal.
Yeah, the professional driver.
You got to, and that's what they are, professional drivers, and they got to act like it too.
Trust me, I'm trying to educate the four-wheelers every traffic stop I get, but it just takes time.
There's so many more of them.
There's a lot, and the younger generation is even worse than what we've been seeing in the past.
Are they?
What I've been seeing, yes.
And there's I don't know. There's no training for that.
Mm-mm.
They don't go see what a truck can do to them.
Mm-mm.
The stopping time and how long it takes and how much weight they are. I mean, there's that. People. I was having a conversation the other day with somebody about merging. People don't even they think they have a right to be on that interstate, and people should get out of their way so they can merge onto the interstate, and that's not the case.
You're moving into their lane of traffic.
Yeah. Let's see. This is a question from one of our owner-operators, John Newmeyer, and he asked, is it better if running out of clock due to traffic or wreck, Is it better to PC to safe haven and explain why you PC'd, or let time expire and put in comments due to traffic accident, etc.?
What I would suggest on this one, if you've got a traffic accident, you've got adverse driving condition, you can get up to 2 hours you can use for. I would use that as far as the wreck. Heavy traffic, the way adverse driving is worded, if you could anticipate it, you don't get extra time. But as far as, hey, I'm just running out of time, I'm going to go to PC and get somewhere, that's a very bad idea. If you're furthering the load, that's going to be a false log every single time. And the use of PC to get places is what we're seeing mostly with our false logs now. You would be much better off to just go ahead and take a hit on the 14 or 11 than to false log. And here's why I say it. False log is almost always an out-of-service violation. You will get 10 hours out of service. Plus, on the CSA, I think an out-of-service hits a lot worse than an 11 or 14.
Yeah.
The 14 and 11 is only out of service if you're stopped while you're over. So if you're stopped 3 days later, okay, you got a violation, big deal. You could probably challenge it through a data queue saying, hey, this was adverse. Make sure you note it. But if you change over to PC, then you're putting it in an off-duty status, and you're going to get hit with a false log every time. And it is a false log because you were driving and it was furthering the load. And even if it was 3 days before, you're going to be getting an out-of-service violation. It's better to go ahead and take that violation that is not out of service. You can just keep rolling after your inspection. Then you have to sit there for 10 hours. And on the CSA, it's going to hit a lot lighter too. If you've got a good safety department, and you've got it noted, they'll go to bat for you over the adverse driving condition. I wouldn't argue it on the roadside. I would just point it out, and if they still do it, great, you can roll on if you got the 11 and 14. But it makes it really hard on your safety department to challenge it if you dropped it over to PC.
Yeah, and you guys got to remember now, this is the safety department may have other advice. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? You be careful and know what Oakley's standards are too. Yeah,
this is the opinion from me, not your company. But yeah, if you're advancing a load and you put it on PC, it's going to be hard to get out of a false log one.
Yeah, I think our safety department has some challenges with PC. I hear them over there talking. On some of those calls about the PC.
Yeah, they changed it a lot. There's a lot of information out there and if you got questions on PC, how to use it, stop by our station. I don't mind printing out a few things and handing them to you and let you read them while you're on your off time. So we want to make sure people have that.
Yeah, it's just knowing the rules because there's so many.
Yes.
And then interpret them the same way.
Yes.
That's the hard part, because I'm sure that's what comes into play with a lot of them. But.
And at least in Arkansas, our rule is if we're not sure, let it go. Find an answer. We'll get it next time. We'd rather, to put it back to sports terms, the tie goes to the runner.
Yeah.
And we'd rather not take action than take wrong action.
That's good to know.
There's a lot of times that if it's one of those that we're just not sure on, we're going to let it go. We'd rather us be wrong.
And y'all get together and go, hey, man, I got one here that's borderline something.
We'll talk about it.
Talk it out.
We'll pass it up the line and get more official opinions. We've sent it up to, the FMCSA helplines before. We do what we need to make sure we're right. If we're wrong, we don't want to do it.
That's good to know.
It's just not fair.
Right.
Fair is important to us.
Good deal. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. That's Lieutenant Doug Lafferty of the Arkansas DOT and down in Hope, Arkansas. I appreciate you hanging with me today, driving up here and talking to us, and it's a lot of good stuff. And appreciate all you guys listening to the Oakley Podcast. Good stuff, man. I told you we had some good stuff coming down the road this year, and we do. We got some good podcasts ahead. We're working on one for next week, company driver to owner-operator, making that move. That's going to be a good one. We're getting some details on that, and several in the works. So listen to our podcast coming out every Wednesday. You can also watch it on YouTube now. We've got that going up every week, so a lot of stuff. Share it with your friends, subscribe, get the word out there as much as possible. We appreciate y'all listening and appreciate you coming, Brother Doug, and we'll talk to everybody next week. Thanks.